Imagine you just spent 2 years of your life creating a mobile game. It started as a small project you were supposed to finish in a couple of months, but your ignorant ass had no idea that scope creep was a very real and unforgiving piece of shit. And during this time you've been living off your savings and eating nothing but instant noodles while heavily reusing tea bags to save money. But now you've come to the point where you have to figure out how to actually make some money off your game to actually continue working as a game developer while also being able to pay your bills. So you sit down and read everything you can find and watch all the talks on how to actually monetize a game, soaking in all the tips and ideas from professionals and developers of the most popular games. But as you do this, you can feel your good intentions and sense of morality starts to fade away. You now feel the corruption spread as you learn more and more complicated ways to take advantage of players using excessive amounts of psychological tricks and predatory tactics. And after a couple of days you start to feel that it's completely normal to use things such as loss aversion, variable rewards, hot state, anchoring, labeling techniques, artificial scarcity and all the tricks in the book to take advantage of as many players as possible to make it rain. And as the cynicism and greed grows in you, you quickly catch yourself as you're becoming one of the things you swore to never become. All these tricks and abusive tactics are exactly what you hate about games, and especially mobile games. So how the fuck do you find a way to earn enough to pay your bills, but at the same time avoid making your game into something you hate? Because if there's one thing that can without a doubt completely destroy your game, no matter how good it is, it's a bad monetization strategy. Get this one thing wrong and everything you've been working towards could be for nothing. So in this video we're gonna go through some of the absolute worst and most abusive predatory tactics I've learned during my research process, so you know exactly what to look out for in games that are only trying to take advantage of their players. And we're also going to try to find an actual monetization strategy that can work for the game we're making. So what are dark patterns? No, it's not those blurry images of your parents arguing, but a dark pattern is something that is deliberately added to a game that causes a negative experience for the player with a positive outcome for the game developer. So hide your wallets everyone, because here we go. And let's start with some cognitive biases that games love to exploit. Loss aversion. Losing something makes you twice as miserable as gaining something. For example, a game can give you a bunch of collectibles and rewards during a level, but if you lose the level, you will lose all the items as well. This makes you much more likely to pay extra money for an additional life to continue. And this principle also goes for everything you put work into. For example, in Candy Crush, they calculate and tweak the level so you're exactly one move away from beating the level, just so they can give you the option of buying one extra move for $1. And since you've already put in the work and basically beaten the level, you're much more willing to spend to avoid losing your progress. Availability. What you see and hear more of, you believe to be normal. For example, if you get a message every single time one of your friends receives some awesome loot from a loot box, you are much more likely to buy loot boxes yourself because you think there's a higher chance that you will get awesome loot as well. This is basically why you buy a lottery ticket as well after you just heard that someone from your town won last week's top prize. The status quo bias. People preferring that things stay as they are. For example, if you're used to having a certain bonus, item or status in the game, you will go to great lengths to keep it that way. This is also why people often stay in abusive relationships, because it's better to know how you'll get abused than to leave and enter the unknown where anything can happen. Anchoring. A bias where your decisions are heavily influenced by a particular reference point or anchor. For example, if a game shows you a crazily overpriced item that you can buy for $50, they know you will never buy it. But a bit later, they will show you the same item for just $1. You now think it's a much better deal than if you didn't see the $50 first. Framing. Choices depend on how the problems are described. Getting 60 eternal orbs and a weapon cosmetic for $0.99 doesn't say much. But when you see the plus 800% extra value, you know it's a much better deal.
I'd be losing money if I didn't buy this.
Another example is how 25% chance to win sounds much better than 75% chance to lose. Social proof, or the bandwagon effect. People will adopt certain behaviors, opinions or beliefs if the majority is doing it. If you tell or show the players that most people spend money in your game, be it cosmetics, battle pass or whatever, people are much more likely to do the same. And by the way, did you know that most awesome people like you actually subscribe and press the bell notification? Labeling theory. People are likely to change their behavior once they are labeled as a stereotype. This is basically how if you tell someone they are good citizens, they are more likely to be good citizens. And also telling people they are great supporters of the development team, they are more likely to be that and support even more. And by the way, thank you for being one of those who like the video. It really helps out a small YouTuber like myself. And if you aren't completely depressed yet, don't worry, we haven't even started on the dark patterns. So let's discuss some more game-related and monetary dark patterns. And trust me, things are only about to get worse. So let's start with the most heated topic, pay to win. And there's many definitions of this, but let's just say it's when a player can spend real money to get an advantage over other players in the game. Now, this is definitely the most hated type of monetization and is without a doubt destructive in the long run. And as extra credits say, this is game design done by accountants, not designers. It might appear successful, but it will make all your players grow to hate your game. And if you're interested in learning more about pay to win, simply download Diablo Immortal and you will soon be an expert on the topic, or you might lose everything you own to creditors and loan sharks. Artificial scarcity. Limited time offers with unnecessary urgency that tries to create a sense of FOMO and anxiety in the players and push them to buy things. One example are those offers that usually go away in a couple of hours, but a better and also much worse example is how many specifically makes sure you don't have any time to think at all before spending. For example, in many infinite runner games, if you lose, you have less than 5 seconds to decide if you want to use gems to get 1 extra life and continue running. And artificial scarcity is also what every single online store does when it says only 4 left in stock, order now. Pay to skip. Spending money to avoid waiting. So this is basically what Clash of Clans is all about, where you have to spend gems to avoid waiting 4 weeks for a building to finish. Another example is how games give you a limited amount of energy that you can use before you are no longer allowed to play the game, unless you pay extra, of course. Loot boxes, skinner boxes, and variable rewards. This is all about spending money for a random chance of getting a reward. This is in many ways pure gambling and feeds into gambling addictions. So variable rewards have been proven to increase the amount a player engage with the activity, be it loot boxes, random item drops, and other gambling mechanics. So variable rewards aren't in itself a bad thing, but when it's used to make more money, as in loot boxes, it should be illegal. And it's also becoming illegal in more and more countries because of its addictiveness and being downright abusive. Power creep. Having purchased items become less valuable over time. For example, purchasing 10 gold in the beginning of a game is much more valuable than 10 gold later in the game. And this is also closely related to what is called the nerf cycle, which is where you let people buy a powerful item or weapon for real money and then you nerf it in a couple of weeks when you release your next powerful item people can buy. Advertisements. Forced to watch ads or given rewards for watching ads. Now, ads are in general not a dark pattern by itself, but as probably many of you have seen, one can go overboard with ads and make it a super annoying part of the game. Premium currency, exchanging real money with an in-game currency to disguise the price of an item. Now, these are all the gems, token, crystals, coins, diamonds, and so on that almost every single free-to-play game lets you purchase. This is probably the most common dark pattern games use. Now, there are 3 problems with premium currencies. Number 1, it disguises the real monetary value of an in-game purchase. Number 2, developers often price items in such a way that you always have some unspent currency left. For example, if you buy 300 orbs for $5, you can only afford 1 eternal legendary crest, and you're just short of 5 orbs to afford another. And lastly, many countries have laws against gambling, for example selling loot boxes, but since premium currencies aren't real money, developers can get around those laws. But it's important to note that all these patterns aren't inherently evil by themselves. It's of course dependent on how the developers use them. For example, premium currencies does have some good uses as well, such as being a common currency that people with little time can buy and people with a lot of time can farm and earn in-game. This way they both can get the same bonuses or items with the premium currency, but get it in separate ways. Battle Pass, paying for a time-specific set of content where you get additional rewards as you play the game. Now, many people find battle passes acceptable, but let's take a closer look on what they really are. Because they are actually just a subscription that uses FOMO, loss aversion and the IKEA effect to pressure people into buying it. By clearly showing the players what they have already earned by playing the game, you get the IKEA effect that says if you built or worked for something, you're going to value it more. So as you level up your battle pass and see all these things you have actually earned through your hard work, you're much more likely to spend extra money on it so you don't lose it. Annuities. You don't get what you buy right away. So you can usually buy either 2000 coins right now or get 200 coins every single day for the next 30 days, which is a total of 6000 coins. And this is much more appealing for the most dedicated and rational players, and also makes sure those players come back every single day for the rewards. Preferential treatment. People that spend money are treated differently in game. So basically this is how whales get unfair matchups to feel more awesome and overpowered, and how they might get more bonuses or new ways to spend money. Custom offers and discounts. This is, for example, when they create custom discounts for new players that are super cheap just to make you start spending. Because once you identify as a spender, you're much more likely to spend again. This is basically the reason for the 800% extra value from Diablo Immortal. So with all these tricks that so many developers abuse, I do not blame people for hating mobile games. But luckily people are becoming more and more aware of these shameless tactics. But it's important to be realistic here as well, because of course we would all love every single game to be completely free, but somehow developers have to make money to continue making games, but they should be able to do that without having to use predatory tactics. And as Extra Credits points out, monetization done right is when the player actually enjoys spending money on your game, not when it's forced, uses tricks, pressure or makes you spend more than you actually want to. And even though I have no data to back up my claims, I firmly believe there exists a graph that shows the relationship between the number of dark patterns you introduce versus the general user experience, and probably also how much you earn. So a little monetization is acceptable, but once you go overboard, the user experience plummets and most players will leave. Now I might be wrong, because the whole reason more and more games go whale hunting is probably because the earnings doesn't plummet even though the user experience does. But in my opinion, this has to be destructive for both your game and your company's reputation, so I don't understand why people would do this. But if you're actually developing a game and want to continue doing it, the real question is, based on a graph like this, what's the minimum number of dark patterns you have to add to make a living off your game? So let's have a look at the game we're creating and try to find an acceptable monetization strategy for that. So PixelTribe is a mobile game where you build and upgrade a clan of Vikings, and you can use your Vikings to do work on your island or send them on raids against others. So with the monetization strategy I want to implement, I basically have two principles. Do not sell power, but convenience. Players must have a way to get everything in the game, even premium currency, without paying. So basically my main goal is to create a satisfying game and basically build an audience, not empty the wallets of the ones that chooses to play my game. But with this we're basically gonna stay the fuck away from a couple of things. And that is pay to win, loot boxes and pay to skip. There's no way I want buildings and upgrades to take so long that you have to spend money to progress. And the absolute worst part is feeling so far behind and not being able to compete with anyone that actually pays for the game. But okay, so what do we actually want to do? And after a lot of polls and discussions in the Discord channel and going back and forth on what people wanted and trying to figure out what would be the best for the game, even with a lot of contradicting opinions, we basically ended up with the following strategy as the first draft. Premium currency. Even though it's a dark pattern, I am gonna use a premium currency here. And even though I know it obfuscates the real price of things, I'm gonna use it as a common currency that's also possible to earn in game. And here I'm creating the incredibly original currency gems. And in the game one can earn gems either by using real money, watching ads, inviting friends, or doing in-game quests, challenges, achievements, and some random drops. So now we basically moved a little in this graph, so there's no turning turning back now. And the next big question is, what do we actually use these gems on? Well, first of all, we should at least add cosmetics. This means decorations to place on your island, building skins, seasonal decoration, Viking ship skins, and so on. So it looks like I have a shit ton of drawing to do from now on. But this should be the main way to use gems, since it doesn't revolve around power at all in the game. The only problem about this is that there aren't really any strong incentives for making your island look better, since I haven't added any ways or reasons to visit each other's islands. So we're also gonna add some other ways to use gems as well. So I actually got the next idea from a friend of mine that has played a lot of Travian, an old browser-based strategy game. And the idea was to add a small and affordable subscription as the only way to get a boost in the game. And the subscription should include these three things. All skill efficiencies are increased by 15%, so all woodworking, mining, and so on goes 15% faster. Next, the Vikings should gain more XP from raiding. And lastly, passive health regeneration. Because in this game you have to make food to heal the Vikings after a raid, but with this they also generate 1% of their health every minute. So if you come back after a couple of hours, they are now full health again. But if you want to do more raids in a single session, you still have to make food. And this subscription should be affordable enough to get it by doing things in game or watching ads if you don't want to pay for it. And also not so brokenly powerful that one has to have it at all times. And next up, I also added 6 daily resources that one can buy for gems, and also where you get one free every day. This also works as a small daily reward for players to come back. But after I initially suggested these 3 things, people in the Discord channel still wanted more permanent upgrades one could spend gems on. So after some thinking and even more polls and discussions, we ended up adding the ability to buy 2 extra Vikings for 500 and 1000 gems. These should be quite desirable, since more Vikings means that more work can be done at once. And for even more convenience, I also added the possibility to buy extra production slots for some buildings where you can order what resources the Vikings should craft next. So then you're able to order more resources at once, so you don't have to come back as often. So that's actually the first draft of the entire monetization strategy I just created and published for our beta testers. And I would love to hear what you actually think about this, and if there are any other things you would like to see or that you think would fit the game better. Now, I know there are a lot of strong opinions about monetization, and I would really like your feedback to find something that can work for all of us. And also, if you want to become a beta tester or simply follow the progress of the game, please join the Discord channel in the description below. Thank you so much for watching and have a wonderful day.